Rachel, thank you
Hey.
so much for coming on the show. It's an honor, a pleasure. Um, this show, I have a strong passion for martial arts, as you know, and I always want to share the benefits of what I went through and what I think we've been able to pass on to many generations, in those qualities that we try to pass on and foster. Is so far reaching outside the dojo, and into everyday life and business life and family life. And I wanted to have a show where I could bring on people like yourself who don't fit the mold, which I just learned a lot more that you don't fit the mold, and have made a tremendous impact in people's lives and segments of populations and things like that. So, wife, mom, entrepreneur, like how do you get through the day? Like, what's your day like?
It's hectic. Um, I feel like I like to call myself a Renaissance woman because I feel like I've got a little bit of things
Yeah,
everywhere
yeah.
and interests all over the place. My life is like Tetris. There's a lot of moving parts in any given day, and there's a lot of priorities in my life. My family is first, but
Of course.
um, yeah, it's a busy day, but fun. Every day is different, and thankfully, I'm surrounded by really smart people, and
It's all about the team, right?
it is. It's always about the team.
All about the
Always.
team. So tell me, you grew up in this area.
Mhm.
Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Lexington. My parents, my father was a aviation mechanic, and
Oh,
my
cool.
mom is a writer. Um, she used to, if you remember when car manuals were printed, she used to write.
Carmen. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
she used to write
She's the
those.
writer.
Yeah, so I had, the writer and the mechanic as parents, and I watched both of them. They moved to Lexington because the schooling was so good. My
Yeah.
older brother had disabilities, so they like figured it out. They were like, "We'll just make this work." So I, was blessed to grow up in a really nice town, and I watched my parents work really hard. My mom wound up growing and became an international writer. My dad went to
Wow.
school and became an engineer. So I watched the two of them work really hard and pursue their careers and passions and go from, you know, entry level to expert
To
level.
way up.
Yeah.
So we were talking earlier about education and how you know we're raised in the much older than you, but in the day of like, you go into elementary school, then you go into high school, and then you go into college, and then you're going to get your job, and then you're going to get married, and the white picket fence, and you're going to have the child, all that, everything was kind of carted out for us and marked out for us. And you certainly absolutely do not fit that mold. So, tell me a little bit about your early education and what did that look like? Did you go to school in Lexington or?
Yeah. So I remember in middle school we had exploratory, we got to go to the local vocational school, we got to go to Minuteman. And I remember being like, wow, this is cool. Um, and
Where was that's
Minuteman
still
is right next to Hanscom Air Force Base.
okay, gotcha.
And we toured it, and I remember I came home all excited, like, "Mom, Dad, I want to go to this school." And my parents were so dead set against it. I think that vocational schools have taken a different turn now. I think that there's a
Yeah, we're
waiting
gonna
list.
get to that. Yeah.
But when I was going to school, there was no waiting list, and the outlook
There
was
was
like
not a waiting
there was
list.
not a waiting
No.
list, and it wasn't necessarily viewed as like the place you wanted to go. It was sort of your plan B. So my parents were very against it. And then I gave it a shot at, the high school in Lexington. And
The traditional.
yeah, I tried the traditional path at the encouragement of my parents. And I really struggled I was entrepreneurial, I think, even from the get go. I had 3 jobs in high school. I was, doing side work on cars and like working and trying to
You're
figure out.
working on cars in high school?
I grew up in a very mechanical household. So like, I feel like I was always looking for, how to earn money and how did money work, and very fascinated about all that. And I struggled with like, why am I sitting in homeroom? Why am I learning calculus? I'm never going to use this.
Yeah, you're
I,
never gonna
I
use it.
just I
And
struggled
you
with
discovered it that young?
at
Like,
14 and 15. I definitely remember being annoyed, not with learning. I enjoyed reading. I still enjoy reading books now, but I struggled with like, they're teaching me to be a hamster on a wheel. They're not teaching me to think. They're not teaching me
not
how to
how to think.
build
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
They're teaching me how to just like work in the system. And not that I could have articulated that at that age, but I just remember being exceptionally frustrated by all of it. And so by the time, and I made a lot of mistakes in high school and ultimately came to the reality that junior year, I was going to have to repeat it. Like the school counselor was kind of like, look, kid, you've kind of goofed off a little too much.
Was it because you weren't challenged? Was it
I
because, like you just stated, that you
don't know that it wasn't, I mean, it was challenging work, but it just, there was no North Star for it. It was like, well,
why am I
why
doing
am I
this?
doing this and for what?
Yeah.
I just struggled with like I could work a full day's work and learn real skills that would make me better and make me think larger. Like it wasn't challenging in the way that I wanted it to be. It wasn't letting me think big. It wasn't letting me learn things that I felt were going to be my future. Um and I failed. Like I just didn't do well in the conventional model. So, at the end of the junior year there, they kind of were like, okay, you got some paths here. You could try and repeat this year, or you could look at alternative schools. And I at that point was like, well, maybe I could go to the vocational. Maybe I could switch. And, thankfully they were willing to take me on, and they
What did
kind of
your parents say though?
at that point they were
Okay.
a little bit more
They
open.
were
Yeah.
open-minded
I
to
think
the
we were seeing the path wasn't working because everybody was frustrated, right? Like we were all, banging our heads against the wall that like this just wasn't
just
it
wasn't
clearly
it.
wasn't it. Because I had no problem. I mean, I would work all weekend. I'd get out of school on Friday and work, 3 jobs, and hard work wasn't my issue. I just don't like work for the sake of work. Like it
Yeah.
just seemed I just hated it. I don't
Yeah,
I
but
just felt so eh, awful. I couldn't
well, you
stand it.
use the word system, right? You use the word of the like the analogy of the hamster on the wheel. It from a young age, you wanted something bigger. You wanted to do something.
Yeah, I
Um,
also wanted to be in an environment where you were thinking about it. And what was awesome was, so I, go to the vocational school, and now the English teacher's talking about, okay, yes, you have to write this report, but someday you're going to own a business or you're going to work for a company and you're going to have to write a business report,
right.
and you're going to need to show up with the right grammar.
Was
You're going to need to show up and present something professional. Here's how you do it. So it was twisted with this education, but for the purpose.
purpose of X
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah, and, the math teachers showed us formulas and showed us like, hey, look, if you're trying to calculate gross profit or you're trying to calculate this, or like
See,
you're
that
gonna
makes sense.
it
That
does.
makes sense. So you're learning still the core subjects, but you're learning them with a purpose, right? It
The
seems like it
education,
fits.
yeah, the education was there to help cultivate skills so
Yep,
that
yep.
when you were, I think I was a typical teenager who thought I knew it all, and I didn't, but I appreciated that they really approached us as though we were adults and approach us with like, okay, at some point you're going to be out in the real world and like you're going to need to have these skills. Let us show you these things and how they could apply in all these different vocations. So the teachers were always mindful of like, okay, if you're going to build a house, you might need to know this formula. If you're going to be in cosmetology, you might need to
Mm,
know this formula in order to figure out the color theory or what, they always applied it to things that were practical, which to me really felt encouraging.
yeah,
And it was like, wow, this is awesome. So I think for me, I have a very passionate disposition to the vocational trades
you
because
do.
it was the first time I really felt like, wow, okay, this is for me. And I felt awesome about it versus conventional schooling. I just felt like a complete failure the whole way through and was like,
Yeah,
this
certainly
is
wasn't good for you.
it was painful. So like
It was
when I
painful.
so when I kind of flipped and got into the vocational trade side of things, it was like, oh, this is so refreshing to learn about something, just to think larger and to think bigger.
Yeah.
And then you're learning problem solving and everything else. So then I, graduate high school, and I again gave it
Did
a
you
shot.
have to repeat your
I
junior?
did.
Okay, so
I
you
did.
did the junior year at the tech,
hmm
and
And
then
then
your
senior
senior.
year. So I had a lot of hard lessons in high school that I think helped shape
Who you are today?
yeah, because
Yeah.
I was a big failure. I mean, it really wasn't a badge of honor, right? Like it was kind of like, oh man.
Well, you raise a good point now. Like, so vocational schools now, I mean, just from what I hear from the local ones like Northeast Voc and Essex Tech or whatever it is,
Yeah.
there's waiting lists. Like
Yeah.
it's difficult to get in. I mean, so what has been, you think, you're a perfect one to be able to kind of analyze this a little bit. This shift, this culture shift from traditional education paths now to these technical schools.
I think there's a few drivers, right? Like, you know, I I think the younger generation right now might be called the tool belt generation because I think they are finding a heavier weight and value in the trades and thinking about, AI advancement. We're
Yeah,
going through
huge,
an
right?
industrial shift, right? 100 years ago, we went through industrialization, and people that had these hands on jobs kind of got displaced by robots and automation. But now we're entering this new phase where, thinking may not be a skill set, right? Like AI might be able
I
to
mean, it's
displace so
scary.
many
What little I
roles.
know, it's scary,
It's wild.
right?
It's cool though. I think it's exciting.
Yeah.
But I think that there's going to be a lot more weight on it. I think also if you go into the trades, like you're graduating with skill sets that you can use no matter what, right? Like I think part of what gives me confidence is like, after I graduated high school, I went to East Coast Aerotech and I learned how to work on planes. And that taught me HVAC, electrical, plumbing, metal, fabrication, engine, like it all different
So you went
components.
from the technical high school to would you like what would you call that?
A tech college. Like I did actually try. I tried one semester at a local college and I came back home and
Why
my
would you
parents
ever do that?
because I was trying to conform. I really was. It wasn't for a lack of
That's
effort.
the problem,
I
conformity, right?
Yeah, I tried it and it was a miserable attempt. And then I'll never forget like sitting in my parents' living room on, my dad has this chair that he used to sit in and I'm on the ottoman. I'm like, Dad, I don't know. I might be a lost cause here because I'm not sure
I
what
tried,
to do.
right?
And he was like, well, do something that you really enjoy. And at the time I was 18, 19, and I was spending every weekend at the dragway and working in garages with my friends on
So
cars,
you were
just like
really into
tinkering.
cars at a very young age.
Yeah, I just had friends that were into it, and my dad was always fixing the neighborhood cars, and like there was no home repair that my parents didn't do themselves. So I just feel like we were very
That's
handy, and like
huge.
it's something that I had exposure to, and it always felt really great to fix something.
And
To
especially a female, right? Like you have
yeah,
a
I was
mechanic that's a like it
yeah,
just it doesn't fit the mold, didn't fit the
it
mold in
definitely didn't
any
back then.
different right back then.
Oh
Did
no,
not fit
no.
anything.
And we didn't have Facebook back then. We didn't have, I mean, I remember working later at a dealership and someone telling me about Facebook, but you had to be like a Harvard graduate to join it or something. So like I had no concept of any other woman that was even into it. It
So
was
when you
interesting.
mentioned that you had friends that were doing it, were they guys?
Yeah, mostly, yeah.
Mostly guy
I was
friends.
very tomboyish for a large portion of my life. Thankfully, though, Cosmo Girls eventually took hold of me, and
What so you mentioned about AI, you mentioned about
Mhm.
this industrial shift. Talk to me a little bit more for the audience, just because there's really a big shift.
Yeah, it's a huge shift. And I think where I was getting at with just the college part was like when you know a trade, you have a skill
Skill
set
set.
that's unique. And it also gives you the confidence to try new things because if you flunk out, like I've always had the confidence, like, okay, if in any of my if everything I do professionally goes, I don't know if we
Sour.
can, yeah,
Yeah.
goes bad. Um,
You've got all
I've
these.
got skill sets that I could go work and paint cars for a living. I could go work and do engine mechanics. I could, there's things that I could fall back on that
See,
I'd be
that's
confident with.
so refreshing. My mother, God rest her soul, used to say to me, Paul, don't ever put all your eggs in one basket. Make sure you learn this or you try that. And you have
Mhm.
multiple back, strategies to fall back on.
Yeah.
So what is typically then offered, say, currently, because you're a big advocate, you said,
There's so many wonderful programs at
yeah,
these
like
vocational
what
schools.
types of
Actually,
program?
Greater Lawrence Folk Tech just announced that they're going to offer an aviation program very similar to what I did at East.
Aviation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what a great program that is because it's so many different skill sets under one roof. Because the East Coast Aerotech eventually got bought out and dissolved. I think the program that they're running now is very similar to what I went through. Awesome program.
So you're
Um,
learning a plethora of,
so
it's
many
not just
things.
one thing like how to fix an airplane engine. You're learning
But I think that's the beauty of a lot of these schools is that they try to commingle the different trades and put them together
together.
so that you can learn and cross reference. Like, they have collision repair, automotive repair, culinary, they have cosmetology, they have engineering, they have
Oh,
media, they have carpentry and plumbing and HVAC and electrical. So there's all these different facets. So like one of the cool programs that they do, there's Skills USA, which is like a competition for the kids. They
oh,
compete
oh,
on
really?
a state level and then national level. But there's a program called Teamworks where, construction, masonry, plumbing, and electrical come together and they build like a mini home. It's kind of like a shed
From
mini home from
scratch.
scratch in 2 days, and they get judged on it. But all these trades come together to learn how the other one works and how they work together. Some of these kids have never worked together. Like when we were judging during COVID, some of these kids had never been to school to even work together, but they were learning remote, and there they are on site with masks, having just met the person that
Oh
they're going to
my
be building this
gosh,
thing
what a
with.
great experience. So you're involved with that.
Mhm. Yeah, great program. Skills USA is really cool. The kids are phenomenal, and they go on to do incredible things. But like, I think what's cool too is that you see how, if you're in the trades, you know other trades,
Mm,
and so you can barter and talk with your friends, and you learn other skill sets. So like, you will inevitably learn other skills, even if you just take one trade. You're going to wind up crossing
yeah.
paths
So
with the
talking
other ones.
about a safety net, like you said, if one industry may go sour or south or whatever we want to call it, you can fall back on A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
And all of these different vocations all have so much opportunity because predominantly most of the vocational trades have an older population in them. So for the younger people coming in, there's all sorts of advancement where, they're not waiting for somebody to
Right. So the
retire.
baby boomers are kind of, fading out and retiring, and
Mhm.
you got this new.
Wave of young people.
So these technical schools, I was at the dentist, and the dental, she was in a dental hygienist program at one of the
A
tech schools.
lot of
I'm like,
schools have
what?
them. Yeah. It's all sorts of hands-on service trade work. And it
It makes sense. It makes sense. And it there's and you'll never have this issue because you did it at such a young age, but this this issue is so ripe right now about education and the cost of education. I mean, to go to uh, I was like, I don't even want to say how much I was paying for myself, but we're talking like upwards to $100,000 for a 4-year liberal arts college,
Yeah.
right? And then these kids get out and can't find a job. And again, I'm a huge proponent, like you, of education, whatever form it is. So it's not that I'm bashing it, but it's really come into the limelight more recently about where is this value, because these kids coming out of these trade schools are making good
Mhm.
money
They are, and they're coming into it without debt.
without debt.
They're getting their education. I mean, yes, they may have some tools or some things that they have to
Yeah,
get into.
but
And yes, they may start at ground level, but it doesn't matter if you have a degree or not. Everyone's starting at the ground level
yeah,
when you're
which
in
you
your
should,
20s.
right?
Like, you have to learn.
Yeah.
So what's cool, I think, if you follow the vocational path, is that you start at entry level and then there's all these opportunities and advancements. So like for me, I wound up having college paid for. So ultimately, as my career progressed, I wound up working for an automotive manufacturer and they picked up the tab. So I got a full, college
So
degree,
you
but
weren't, yeah, but you weren't stuck with, I mean, the
yeah.
kids today is like, they forget about the housing costs, right? We could spend days on that issue,
Mhm.
right? But where does this young population, are that's why so many are coming back home to their families,
I
right?
know. I know. Well, I think it's ultimately they're learning problem solving skills, right?
They're
And that's
learning how to think.
Mhm.
And that's the problem that I've even always had, that rigid education. It's like, back in the day, it's like, well, memorize the alphabet, memorize the timetables. Okay, I got to memorize, but I'm like, now what?
Yeah.
Right? What do I do with it? Right. So what we try to do in martial arts, to tie it back in too, as you know, is we want kids, adults, to be able to handle various situations.
Mhm.
Hopefully, they don't have to get into any confrontation. The goal is to not to have to, but to teach skill sets to that they can employ in everyday life with that confidence, with that public speaking, the ability to act and make correct choices and things like that. So it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. Do you see a lot of tech schools, like new tech schools opening, or
No,
no?
we need more. I mean, I think that
Yeah,
our state only has 38 that
in
comply,
mass,
yeah, that comply with the chapter 74 like
there has to.
stipulation.
There's.
We need more. We need more.
Do you?
And we need more funding to those schools too, because I
Where
know
does the funding come from? Is it state and local? Any Fed? No,
I don't know the answer
not
to that.
sure. Yeah.
I don't want to BS you on that
No,
one,
no,
but I
no.
don't know where the funding comes from. I think some of it comes from the local communities,
Yeah.
and certainly like grants, and I'm assuming it's coming from a variety of areas. But
And they have
But we
sports
need.
in them too.
Oh yeah. Oh
Everything, because this
yeah.
young woman was telling, "Oh, I play on this volleyball or whatever."
It's conventional in many ways, but it provides you with real life education. A lot of the vocations you leave with certifications, you're directly, employable. Like I know Whittier Tech this summer, they're running a 200-hour, it's free. So if you're an adult and you want to learn a trade, you can go to a 200-hour, they have I think like 8 or 9 different programs, and you can go to the school and you can come out at the end of the summer with education and training. I mean, you might not be a journeyman or like, you're not going to have that many
No, but at
hours,
least you
but
can
you're going to have enough
do
to
the
like,
basics,
yeah,
right?
yeah, to become employable. So it's interesting that we only have so few of these schools. I would
I bet
hope
you
that
you'll see more.
I think
I
we
bet you you'll see
we
more.
should, and our community should rally around these programs too, because like I don't think people realize like the next time you have a catering event, have you considered your local school? A lot of them offer
I
catering,
know,
bakery,
right?
and they have restaurants. Um, you can go get your hair cut. You can go get your car fixed. You can go have projects done. A lot of the schools are really open to the community, and a lot of them do have, you know, almost customer facing divisions where
Yeah,
like if you as long as you're patient and you don't mind waiting, right? It's like what is that, like good, fast, and cheap or something like that
exactly.
too. It's not going to be fast,
No,
but you can have an affordable project done and help the kids learn too.
that's awesome. So let's go back to you now. You're an advocate and a proponent for these tech schools and this type of education.
Yep.
While you mentioned it is conventional, it's definitely unconventional, but conventional, I guess you could
Yeah,
say.
yeah, yep.
Um, so how did you went in with airplanes and
Mhm.
automotive,
How
and
did I
yeah,
end up
and
here?
then
Yeah.
yeah, now
Yeah.
then what
So
happened?
I I graduated the aviation school, and then interestingly, I mean I was a woman back then, and I thought like, oh sure, I'm just going to be able to get a job easy peasy, and it's like not going to be a big deal. It was actually really hard. I got a lot
Really?
of no's. I got a lot of like, well, progressive. So it was
Oh.
hard. To
From the gender standpoint,
Yeah, yeah, there just was some
biases.
bias. Yeah, I don't think that people
But
really thought that I could do anything, and I'm not claiming that I was an A plus tech. I was a B
no, but
minus, I'll
that's not
say.
the point.
But I did struggle, and then ultimately it was a Nissan dealer, the one on 93 and 128. A manager who was like, you know what? He had actually said no, so he turned me down the first time I interviewed. And then through mutual friends, someone I knew kind of vouched for me and was like, actually, she kind of knows her stuff. And so he called me back and he's like, I'll give you 30 days. Wheel your toolbox in on Saturday and we'll give it a shot. So, after like months of trying to get the job and not getting it, I like hyperventilated with my friends. I was like, oh my gosh, this is my only shot. Like, I can't mess this up. So, a friend of mine helped me with the toolbox. We wheeled it in on a Saturday, and I had my very own bay, and I got to work on Nissans, and that was kind of my first, big girl job, if you will.
How old were you then?
I don't know, 21,
Wow.
22,
Yeah.
21, 22. Like,
Yeah.
and so with that, I worked at the dealership, and then, a lot of car side work kind of started up, and that got me thinking of like, oh, I can do some stuff at home and I can do some things on the side. And I got a little bit of a taste of like, how would I do, business on my own? But the cost of owning a shop, I think, was intimidating, and I didn't
Yeah.
have a pot to piss in, so
Yeah.
it wasn't really
Yeah.
it wasn't an option. I went to another dealer. I went to Myrac, and I used to care for this guy's electrical fleet. It was a trucking company, and he had a whole fleet of electrical vans. And
Back then,
yeah,
there was really?
yeah, yeah, just like the white vans. He had
No,
like
but they weren't gas?
oh no, no,
Oh,
not EV, like
oh,
an
okay.
electrical company
Oh, okay.
van.
Electrical company. I thought you
Yeah.
had said
No, no,
electrical vans. I'm like, back then?
no. I mean, it was just coming out, but there was like one.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
wasn't popular. So archaic back then. But he came in and he was like, "Hey, I know this guy that he owns an auto body supply company. Like, you should really work for him." And I was like, "Yeah, nope, I'm good." Like, it took me long enough to get. I'd finally felt like I had earned my spot, and
Yep.
everybody,
Yep.
felt good about me. I was like, I don't really feel like changing the role and having to start from the bottom. So I turned it down for a while, and then he was like, "Hey, just, it was one bad day at work." And he was like, "No, no, seriously, talk to him." So I wound up talking with the guy. I turned the job down, and that guy was persistent. This guy, Gary, who's still a mentor to me to this day. Eventually he gave me an offer that I couldn't refuse. And I was like, all right, I'll come work for you. And so it was in the automotive supply arena where I was supplying paint to shops in the area. And through that, I learned so much. I mean, he really took me under his wing and showed me about sales and about,
So you're
inventory and how
learning
things
a lot of
work.
different
And it
things.
was a vertical learning curve at that time. And then PPG, which was his supplier, wound up having an opening. And I thought I was too young. I would have never dared apply. But someone at PPG had called me and was like, "Hey, this is open and you should apply for it." I'm like, "I'm too young. I don't have enough experience. Like, no chance I would get it." And he was like, "No, Rachel, I think you should put your name in." And it was enough of a hint that I was like, "Oh, okay, I guess I should." So I wound up getting that job. And so it was sort of this, regional territory manager. Basically, I got to run a business with someone else's checkbook. Essentially, I had a budget, I had to grow revenue, I had different metrics that I needed to work with, and I had to work through independent suppliers in order to grow our market share. And that taught me a ton about marketing and how
Wow.
do you run expenses and how do you scale. They had the program for college. So as I was going through HR, I noticed it and I was like, "Hey, what's this?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, if you commit time to the organization, they'll pay for your education." So I got approved for
Hello.
that. So I would work all day and then I went to school. I took finance and business classes and, I learned a ton. I would go with, whatever problem set one of our customers had
uh,
during the day. I'd go to college and be like, "Hey, how do I figure
how
this
do I
out?
figure
Like
it
this guy
out?
gave me his P&L and I don't understand, show me how this works." So, and I think I was ready at that time to like, I wanted to learn and I understood the value and the cost of money at that point. And I, just slowly started to understand how business worked. I got to work with hundreds of business owners of
Really?
all, that was really the job. The job ultimately was sort of this consultant role where I helped businesses grow and scale. Um, PPG really wanted us to develop the market share and help our local businesses using our product to become better. So my job really evolved into almost this like industry consultant to help them navigate. So
That's amazing.
we did Six Sigma, lean process management. There was a lot of education around like how do we help these businesses grow and scale. And I learned a lot, not from my own mistakes, but just watching how these business owners
Yeah,
operated.
because I'm thinking as you're starting the story, okay, well, it's not conventional, but now I'm working on cars or airplanes or whatever it is. That seemed like a direct thing. Then you mentioned that you learned multiple disciplines within that. And then now you're getting into business operations, business management, consulting,
Mhm,
how an entire organization can run from
mhm.
within and on the outside.
Yeah. And so it really was like an interesting perspective of like, oh, okay. And I just soaked it up with a sponge. And I had really good mentors around me that saw potential too. So like it's not for lack of effort of others, right? Like the people
Yeah,
you surround yourself with, like what's that phrase? Like, show me
show me your
your friends and I'll
then I'll
tell you
show
who
you
you
who
are.
you are or whatever.
I was thankfully surrounded with entrepreneurs and people that in my mind were like, next
But
caliber.
don't you think you're not giving yourself enough credit? Because if they didn't see, those qualities in you, they weren't going to gravitate towards you. They
Yeah,
just weren't. So you got to give yourself credit.
yeah, it was a mutual,
Yeah, yeah.
attraction. I think, but I'm grateful for the time
For
that
the
they
opportunity.
donated because
Yeah,
they certainly didn't have to.
correct.
But grateful for the lessons and the things that they, spelled out and showed me and were very kind of transparent of like, okay, this is how you do this. And, they never treated me like a dummy. They just were like, okay, here's how this works, here's how that works. So
That's amazing.
um I think, and then toward the end of that career, my husband and I had a son, and, my husband worked, he's a police officer, so he worked the midnight shift. So he would often go to sleep to kind of just bank some sleep before shift.
All right.
I'd put my son to bed at 7 o'clock and I'm like, man, like, what am I going to do from
What do I
seven?
do now?
What do I do? So like, Monday through Friday after work, I'm like, I got nothing to, my kid's asleep, my husband's asleep. Like, what am I going to
What
do?
do I do with myself when I
So
get the itch?
I, I I started this. It was a complete failure, but I was like, I need to do something that makes money between 7 and 10. I'm going to find a hobby or do something.
I
So
love
I fell into costume designing. One of the weird skills. I have all these useless skills, but
no,
or useful skills, I
they're
guess, depending on
useful.
how you look at it. But my mother had taught us how to sew, which was definitely not cool in middle school when you're like,
Yeah.
not cool at all. It was a miserable skill set I learned, but like what I wound up falling into is I made Miss USA bikinis and costumes and
Yeah.
pageantry stuff. So like just through the gym I went to, it was a competition gym where I trained. So
Oh,
I got
okay.
to meet all these competitors and Miss USA and Miss America and all this stuff. And they would have issues where like their dress would fall
Fall
apart. And all
apart.
this. And I'd go, oh, I have
I can
the
fix.
sewing, I'll sew it at home and I'll bring it back to the gym tomorrow morning. So I slowly started working on that and I was making a little bit of side cash and it was like, oh wow, this is actually kind of cool. It didn't have legs. It was too much service. It was,
Yeah, yeah.
way too much pressure. Everybody wanted everything like perfect. And
Oh,
I was
of
like,
course, especially in that
it wasn't
realm,
for
right?
me
Yeah.
ultimately.
Yeah.
But it was the first, inkling of like, this is actually fun doing stuff on my own and really like building
Ah.
things out. And then different opportunities just presented themselves, in the last 8 or so years where I've expanded into all these different organizations and it's, now there's more than one business and there's more things going on and it's, chaotic, but I enjoy the idea of working for myself and having to think and also having really smart people. I think hiring people is really important. I feel like sometimes business owners get stuck in this like I'll do it best, so I can't delegate it to
Oh
others.
gosh, I've learned that lesson very hard.
There's a great book, Rocket Fuel by Gino Wickstrom.
Hmm.
Unbelievable book and unbelievable concepts too about like you can be the visionary in your business, but you have to have some people around you that can help you execute.
You
And
told me to read. I read that book.
it's a really
You
good book.
suggested
I
it.
think
To me.
I
It
think it
was a
really helps
great book.
for those of us that are like stuck in that mind of like, oh, I got to do it.
Did you ever read the Who Not How? I think I
I
mentioned.
did. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
like the same thing, right? Like I remember when I first opened my first dojo was 1995, and I was the instructor, and then I was the bookkeeper, and then I was the marketer, and then I was the psychologist and the parent advocate, and this and that. None of the things of which I could do well, but that was it. Like I can't delegate this. Like you just said, I know what I'm doing. It's my business. I can't do that. And now it's just so the opposite, right? The module doesn't work.
Yeah.
Doesn't work.
You have to rely on others in order to be successful. Like I often think of like the McDonald's drive-through, how they automated the business experience, right? Like it's not one person.
Right.
There's someone working the drive-through, there's someone making the burgers, there's someone flipping the fries.
Yep.
There's different people all coming together to give you this product in like 3 minutes or less.
Right.
And you're kind of driving through and they've made it as simple as possible for you to like, okay, I want a number two, blah, blah, blah,
Yep.
and off you go. But it took the effort of multiple people in order to get you that product that fast.
And we don't see it as that. The average person, I mean, you do because but you're
Well,
right.
for
You're
any
up.
business, right? For the person thinking about how their business is going to work, it's like if you've got a unique skill set or you've got something that makes you special or you've got this go to market strategy, it's like, okay, well, who else can you bring along with you and help them? Like I went to a John Maxwell conference a few years ago and he had this really great saying that I think sticks with me now is like business isn't a lake, it's a river. Like you will get money, but as you get the money, don't let it pool up. Like give it to others and give other people opportunity to grow and together like you'll really go fast and forward and you'll do
Right.
great
Well,
things.
old school says the opposite, right? The
Mhm.
old thing is like, well, yeah, all this money, I'm taking more. And then you know what happens. I
Mhm.
don't have to tell you, but it's so true. The team is really uh, a key to success.
Yeah.
So you said organizations, startups, so what are you doing now? Like what programs, what groups, what,
All sorts, there's coaching and business development,
do you
organizations
have,
that I
do you
have.
have a like a business of coaching
Mhm.
or do you just,
Yep. Yep. So I have coaching businesses. I have a staffing company. I have a women's group. It's like a women.
yeah, we started talking about that. Tell me about the women's group.
Yeah. So myself and a bunch of other.
Whatever you can share. You don't
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
to.
No, it's a group of women. We kind of came together, all moms that needed space to work, that we needed a space that would foster us. We're all women business
Same
owners.
mindset. Yeah.
Same mindset, very abundant thinkers that kind of came
That's
together.
because I live.
I mean,
Yeah.
we came together
Driven. You're driven.
driven and, we have other demands on our life, right? We have family that's important. We've got husbands and spouses that we want to be there for. So like, while we can't do everything, we're trying to, right? Like you can do everything, but not all at once, right? So it's a space for us to network and get together. We've got a book club and we've got events and things that
So it's a
like a
physical location.
yeah, it's a physical location. And it's for kind of the North Shore mind leaders and thought leaders that are female. Not to say that men couldn't go, but it's really meant for a woman to help them.
So is it, educate me a little bit because this is fascinating. Is it, so it's they have different jobs, but is there like collaboration too or no?
Yeah.
Is it
So
like
I
a
mean,
think
yeah,
tank or something?
yeah. It's I think what's troubling with this, I think what was interesting is like when we formulated this idea over martinis. I know. I'm just
Yeah, that's what that would do it.
kidding. I know.
But that's when the best thoughts
I
and
know.
innovations happen, right?
It wasn't something that had been done before that I knew of.
So
So I don't.
interesting.
I think it's a lot of different things in one space. So it's a space for women to go to. Like we had a women's health panel with gynecologists and
Yeah.
nutritionists and health leaders. They just spoke to us about like
Wellness.
wellness. But there's space to work and there's space to congregate and space to like have a team meeting or a space to
So you
do.
can use it individually, but then you also have the group dynamic.
Mhm. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So like I mean,
It's like a private men's club.
yeah, except for women.
Exactly.
And the idea is like you may not want to have a meeting at a Starbucks, right? Particularly if you're negotiating a deal or it's some sort
Yeah.
of acquisition, like you may not want general people to see it. So it's kind of a private place to just tuck away and
So is it is it like just like you said, say you were doing a business deal and you want to, is there like private rooms or is
yeah,
it
it's actually a private location. So like there's no social media,
so
there's
no,
no nothing. It's invite only. And it's
oh,
hidden. So you really
it's
you
hidden.
wouldn't
That's
know where to
oh,
go
interesting.
unless you knew.
Do you have to go with the phone outside and dial a certain code
No,
or
it's
something?
thumbprint. It's thumbprint. So yeah.
And it's invite only.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
And
it's a fun little
I
project
think
that
it's
seems
great,
yeah.
and it must be supportive too. You know what I mean? It's like I'm sure being a mom is the most demanding and difficult job. Then like you said, spouse and pets and jobs and money and all the things that this crazy world
Yeah.
throws at us. We all need support, but especially
Yeah, it's hard. I
moms.
think it's challenging, I think, to be, a mompreneur and doing
A
all the things,
mompreneur, I
you
like
know?
that.
Like we just had holiday photos because like that's the challenge, as working moms, we had talked about like none of us have gotten our holiday photos. So like we decorated the space and had a photographer come in. It was like, here, turnkey, just show up with your family and we'll get you your Christmas cards,
Get out.
So
That
like
is
just to make it
awesome.
easier so
Make
that like
life
yeah.
easier.
So I think a lot of our ideas and things are really centered around how do we make life easier for the entrepreneurial woman.
I think that is so creative and innovative.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's a fun little side project. Well, it's not a
You're
side project
calling it a
anymore. No.
side project.
No,
I
it's
think
a
it's,
business now, but it's just a
I
community
mean,
of
all
women.
these things are running through my mind, and I'm sure you already do them, but like the services you could, that's
Yeah, it's
awesome.
endless. I mean, and it's with a community of women. So I'm only a part of that. But again, I think that's goes back to like you can't do it all on your own and collaborating. And I think being open to I think I used to be closed minded of like you can only do business by yourself and be the only owner. And I'm more open now to partnering with other, strong personalities.
Absolutely.
While you may have conflict at times, like you do learn
From each other.
from each other and learn different skill sets and different things.
So I don't know if you remember, but you and I met at a like
Networking
an
thing.
event,
Yeah.
right? So it's like I'm such a huge advocate of that, as you are, obviously. It's yeah, that mindset has changed. And it goes back to again, it has to be me and I can only do it and all that stuff. And now you're like meeting like we're all subcontractors for each other in different ways, right? It's
Well, I think to all the success I had, it was through relationships and through different like, it was the electrical truck driver that introduced me to Gary, that introduced me to this person, it's like the people introduce you to a whole other segment of people that or become best
yeah,
friends with, or open doors for you, or you just have no concept of where things may land. So I think approaching every new opportunity to meet people with ears open to kind of listen to what they
yeah.
have.
And I also think about um not having like what's in this for me type of thing,
Hmm.
right? Just
Yeah,
doing it because, and then things happen.
1,000%.
right?
I think it's really refreshing when someone shows up and it's not about like, can you do this for me? Or can you do
Hi,
that
I'm
for me?
here. I'm this, but what do you do? Oh, good. Well, maybe, and I'm like, come on, will you? Then you know the agenda's there already, and it's such a turnoff.
It is. It is. And I think things will happen, if you do what you say you're going to do and you're accountable and reliable and
So those are the qualities I want to get into about you because you are all that and more. So
Mhm.
if you, so we're talking about, the euphemism, the analogy is the qualities that go into your martial arts training, right? And tell me about your mindset. What do you think? Obviously, that innovation from a young age and your parents were huge,
Yeah.
obviously huge influence on you. What else? I mean, I can name them, but I'm asking you to name them that
I
you think has contributed to your success.
discipline. I think just being
What does that mean?
it means doing things when you don't want to,
When you don't want to,
right? Like
or you
doing
don't
things
have
when you
to.
don't feel like doing it, staying consistent. Because I think the magic,
Yeah. What
think of the book, but there was this book I read, and it'll
if you
come
have
to
any
me.
new ones? I'm really
This
in
is
need. I
actually
was
a
asked.
great book that you have to read, and I can't think of the
All
name
right,
of it.
you'll remember, but
Um,
I loved. Yeah, I love that book. That
I want to say it was written by Adam Grant. So I don't know if you can drop it below or something, but he talked about the piñata effect. That when you think about the piñata, the person who gets all the claim is the last person who
who
strikes it.
hits it
But what doesn't get the credit is all those strikes to the
along
piñata
the
leading
way.
up to it.
Yeah.
So I think, when it comes to discipline, you have to have a North Star of why you're doing things. Like
Mm.
Simon Sinek in his books always talks about your why and understanding your passion points. Like, understanding why you're doing the things you're doing will help you do the things when you really don't want to do them.
Yeah,
So
that's such a great analogy.
I feel like having a North Star, I have a vision statement that's on my computer
And
in
you're
all of
looking at
my offices, and I look at it every
every
day
day.
without fail. And I think subliminally is telling me to stay focused on those things. And also observing. I think I
Did you say observing?
observing.
Observing.
I think that that's something that if my goal is X, I look at how I'm tracking to X every day.
So you're an analytics person. Data.
I do like data.
Yeah,
I do
I
like
know.
to
I can
look at I
tell.
do like to look at it.
I'm
Yeah.
listening to you, and I
I
go,
don't
"Yeah,
want to admit that, but I do like
no,
data.
no,
I
no,
do
no. You
geek
are."
out on those things, but I also think that there's something about observation. If I'm looking at it, I'm going to pay attention to it. I'm going to, you ever like talk about something and then all of a sudden 2 days later it like shows up,
Yeah,
right? Like I think if you're putting it front and center,
so true.
your biology is just going to
So
be
true.
hyper aware of it, right? Or like you talk about a gray Corolla and then you see 20 of them, the next day or while you're driving. I think if you put it in your
Yeah,
front vision,
that's really
you're
true.
really going to narrow in on it and you're going to make it happen. Versus if it's kind of out here or you don't fully
Yeah.
believe that it's going to happen, you're never going to get it. So I feel like being crystal clear on what it is that you want, having it visual and having it something that you're focused on is important if you're going to achieve anything big.
So I used to be like that, and then as I got older, it kind of became, um, and I don't want to use the word. I don't know. Trying to think of a good word. Like I'd be the type of one that goes, "Oh, I'm opening up another karate school." Like I haven't thought about anything, but I threw it against the wall. People would look at me like, "What? How are you going to do that? Who's going to step? I don't know. I'll do it. I'm doing it, and I'll figure it out." Um, where I was younger, it was ding, 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 ding. So I think we all have, the bottom line is we have to have the passion, we have
Mhm.
to have vision,
Yeah.
and the discipline, right? There may be different quirks and tweaks along the way of the road that we get there.
Yeah.
And it does change, but observation, absolutely I think is key. Looking at successful, whether it be people or ideas or whatever it is. What else you think? So you said discipline. You've had good mentors,
Mhm.
observation,
Accountability, saying what you want. I think
saying what you want.
saying what you want, asking for it.
Yeah,
I think
I just had a.
people get squirrely about that. But
So
yeah.
I have a coaching business for martial arts schools, right?
Mhm.
And I just had a conversation with wonderful person, a business owner, And it was, I said to this gentleman, no's a word. You can say no, it's not a bad word. And he just looked at me, right? And you can say what you need and want too. That's powerful and good. And I think sometimes people, for whatever reason, it's either uncomfortable, they don't want to let people down. I don't know.
It too, it's also like the upbringing and how you were,
That's true.
how you were raised and what you feel comfortable with saying. But I feel like, I watched it when I did have that corporate experience. It was like, someone would get a promotion and someone else would get really pissed off about it. They felt
Oh,
that they were entitled and that everybody knew that they wanted it. But it was like, well, have you ever asked for that position or asked how to get it or what you'd have to
well,
do to
that's
get
what I
it?
mean.
You have to communicate.
You as the boss, if you had someone come to you and say, "Hey, what does it take for me to be XYZ versus someone else that just goes along?" Obviously,
You're going to
those
be focused.
traits in that individual, you're going
Yeah.
to go ding, 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 ding.
Well, it's also just like understanding what someone else wants. Like we're not all mind readers and we
Well,
don't
that's the other.
know.
Didn't you know?
Right.
And
So
it's no.
communication, I think, is a key.
Communication is key, right?
I think you have to communicate what you want. You have to communicate, right? Like every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. You need to be
Choice of
careful
word.
of what you
Yeah.
say yes to, especially me. Like I say yes to a lot. Like people will ask me, like, Rachel, how do you do it all? You're always doing this and doing that. And I'm like, if you saw the list of things I say no to on a daily basis, your head would spin. I say no to a lot of things every day so that I can do things that I want to do.
You
And it's tight. It's very tight.
Oh, I know. You were trying to get out of this. I understand. I wasn't like,
No, and the
no,
only reason why was because there's a committee meeting tonight. So Shasheen was
and I'm
unfortunately going.
sorry. I'm sorry.
They were gonna get rid of their auto collision program, and actually, thankfully, it all worked out.
Oh,
It's
good.
good. So
Yeah.
there was an emergency meeting that
I
potentially.
felt horribly. I'm like, no, I'm having you on. You can't back out
No,
now.
no, no, no. I'm glad I'm here. This was equally important. I
No,
just
no, no, no. I
for the kids.
understand.
I didn't want to let
No,
down
it's
that
all about the
program.
kids. No, no, it's all about the kids.
Yeah.
What about the fact? So I observed this with parents and kids in the karate schools. Right? Is that now the kids are kind of like running the show? I don't want to make a blanket statement, but I'm seeing it more and more and more. Is like, do
Yeah.
you? Oh, do you want to do this, Mikey, Johnny, Mary, or whatever? Or do you? You're like the kids are telling the parents
Mhm.
what to do, how to do, what they want to do, when they do. Like, what is going on? Like,
I don't know because it's
you're a mom.
yeah, yeah. I think we're. It's probably an influence of social media and
That's what I want.
right, like there was the generation of helicopter parents and this and that. And
Yeah,
I think
I was one of those.
there's a generation of parenting that's trying to give their kids a voice so that they can,
Be heard,
be heard. And
confident.
parenting's
It's
interesting.
tough. There's
It's
no.
tough.
It's
I
right.
don't have a playbook, and I wish I did.
Oh well, nobody has a book, right? You,
Yeah.
you freak out. It's like,
But
ah,
I do think martial arts are important for kids. Like I feel like what I've seen with our son is just like discipline and awareness of himself and his body, right? Like he
mm,
knows how long his arms are and he knows the limitations of his body and his strength. It was interesting at like one of his recent competitions like we we have seen him compete and do different things, but like his voice all my
isn't
whole
that
family just
awesome?
was like, "Whoa, who are you?"
This past one
Yeah, because he just yelled so loudly that
with his ki.
we had never heard it before, and we were like, "That was kind of cool."
That is awesome.
But I think it's been really good for him because I remember one class he took. This was like early in his journey. They had him write an essay on, what did the snake mean and why is this, what do these influences have, which I thought was really cool
Yep.
that he was, had
Different
to,
approach.
yeah, to look into things and why things are the way they are. But I do think it teaches discipline, which I
Yeah.
think is important.
I think. Well, you mentioned it, right?
Yeah.
Being disciplined. Um, Tell me if you can a little bit. So you get that you're calling it a project. Any other groups or things that you're involved with in your entrepreneurial lifestyle?
Yeah. So I have some coaching businesses where I help, coach.
Plural
Yeah.
businesses.
Yeah. Yeah. Help
Okay.
people navigate their business and how to think bigger and how to, get ahead. I think, you know, my unique skill, I think, is helping people see the forest through the trees and think
It gets
about
overwhelming
it can be well, it's lonely if you're a
and it's
business
lonely.
owner. I think it's hard when you're a business owner, when you're navigating, especially in the beginning, you're navigating 17 different hats and you're trying to figure out how they all play together and what's the right move because you don't want to fail and you don't want to invest your money in, especially in the beginning, you probably don't even have the money.
You're
But like how
borrowing the money if you have the money or
all
whatever.
these different components. And I feel like there's this expectation that you have to have it all figured out when the reality is that like you're putting the wing on the plane at altitude. Like you're not it's not fully baked. You're figuring it out as you go.
Right.
And I do think you'll have failed businesses before you have good ones, right? Like there was definitely
100%.
with my side work working on cars with that weird pageant business like I failed at things before I kind of figured out where things were going to really work.
I agree wholeheartedly. But I guess what I'm alluding to, like with this generation now, again, not a blanket statement, just seeing these younger kids,
Yeah.
you're calling it a failure, but that was a choice,
Mhm.
right? You closed you stopped doing the pageant thing.
Yep.
But even if something failed, that's a mindset because it propelled you to do something else that was even better or more successful, where a lot of people fail and it's like, oh my God, I just got a death sentence.
Mhm. Well, you fail forward. There's definitely learning from failure. I think acknowledging that you made a mistake and like, "Ooh, okay, that was a, lesson learned. All right, not going to do that again, or I'm going to try to avoid it." Um, our lifetime is so short. And I would much rather try it all and try different things. Like I said, like I really do think of myself as like a renaissance woman. Like I want to learn it all. If you look at my podcast interest, it's very all over the board. It's like quantum physics and political and investment and this and that. Like it's
Oh,
all over the
everywhere.
board because I'm just interested. I want to know different
Yeah.
things and try different things. So I think, for anyone seeking out business, like you will fail. There are going to be mistakes that you make that you're like, and some of them may
Oh
cost you
boy, did I.
a
Yeah.
lot.
Right.
But you'll learn from them and you'll be all the better for it. And the real trick is if you can take some other people and mentor them. Like now I'm in a phase now where
It's the
like,
legacy, right? Like
yeah.
you're saying life is short, right? And I got to just share this brief experience. I have a dear friend of mine, and we were talking, he and I, on a phone call, and I forget what even brought the statement up, but it was like I think I gave him a little preaching about life, and then he came back to give me the backlash preaching of me, which was all good, and said, "You know, Paul, I'm 62. He's like 61." He goes, "We're in the fourth quarter," and I went silent, and I went, "Put the speaker or the phone or whatever." I'm thinking, fourth quarter, holy crap, right? Never mind, we can't control everything that the higher power, illness, unfortunate circumstances, whatever it is, young
Mhm.
people are, you know, not living to 120, whatever. And it's so true, right? It really resonated with me and it hit me in a real, like, gut wrenching thing. And it really changed the way about the people that I gravitate towards. As we get older, the circle anyway gets
Smaller.
smaller and smaller and smaller, right? But then the decisions, like like you said, for every yes, I have to say no. It's like life is very short, and whether that's being the sponge like you are, that wants to learn and try different things, or the person that wants to see the whole world and travel, if you can financially, but doing things that you never did before or didn't think you could do before. That's a mindset. And, I equate that to what you said earlier about skill sets being taught at vocational schools is it's really that mindset of skills, and in this case, shock in the chest to me about like, I'm in the fourth quarter. Holy crap, right? Um, we should be doing that. And we should be telling our kids and showing our kids the same thing. And that's what bothers me a lot, because I do work with a lot of kids, as you know, and parents. And you mentioned AI earlier, but social media you mentioned too. It's like what is going on? And I'm not blaming the parents and I'm not blaming society. It's not about blame because I want to try to assist and help and foster and change. But these young kids have a tough road ahead. They're communicating by text at the same table. No one can speak.
I know. It's interesting. I mean, I think we've with my son and
How old's your son now?
he's 11.
11.
And with my daughter when she's old enough, like
Hey, you have a young one.
we're teaching Landon. So like Landon and I are restoring a car together. Like
Yes, you
he's
showed me a
learning
picture.
all sorts of, at 10, he was able to read an electrical schematic better than I could. I mean, the kid just picked it up so quick. So I think too, it's like if you have any skill sets, it's taking the time to show your kids
Well,
how
that's
to do those things. And
more
I think,
importantly the legacy, right?
yeah.
Your kids, so they can have that it's empowering.
Mhm.
Look at what you're saying. A 10-year-old kid. I wouldn't be able you told me, but what the heck is this? This is
Well,
a
now
foreign
he's like
language.
so he rides his bicycle with his friends and like, he will, we'll hear tinkering in the garage and it's him fixing his buddy. Oh, sorry. One of my friends, I'm just tightening the chain. I'm adjusting this. So he's doing tune-ups on all
On
the
the bicycles.
bicycles for his buddies. I'm like, you got to start charging for that kid.
So now you gotta teach them, which I'm sure you have already done, the business skills of,
I think he's interested in it. I think he'll become a business owner, I'm sure. But
you do.
yeah,
So
I do think so.
what is, so tell me about his brain. Like, how do you see
Mhm.
you as the mom versus your mom as the mom? Like, are you doing a similar training
Uh,
as a parent? And I know you said your
Yeah,
husband.
aren't we default to that? What we know, I think my parents tried to show me all the skill sets they had. Right? It was like, hey, we're fixing the kitchen sink. Come on, hold the light. Like or
Get you involved,
yeah,
right?
or like, hey, we're not going to take your clothes to the tailor. You're going to tailor it yourself. Like like all not fun. I remember being really miserable with a lot
Not
of things.
fun.
Yeah, it was none of it was fun. Remember at the time it was like this is dreadful. But now as an
I
adult
see.
all of those skills have paid it forward. Like I saw, like it was a meme or whatever. It was like you didn't hold a flashlight for your dad, and it shows. Like because there's a lot of people that can't do those things. So I don't know that I'm cool.
Me.
I mean, I think I've definitely hit that point of not cool with Landon. Like I do feel like Landon's like, oh, mom, but he is learning things. I think there's glimmering moments of hope where like he'll learn something or he'll get frustrated with something and be like, Mom, help me with this, or Dad, help me with that. So I think where his brain is at is like he loves the school he's in now because he gets to go into different class. He seems very similar to me. Like he doesn't like
Oh,
sitting still and he wants to be on the
he
move and
wants to be on the
yeah.
move.
And he's curious, always asking me how he can make money. So
W- That is
yeah.
awesome.
So
Yeah, so I think he's gonna follow in your
I think
footsteps.
so.
Yeah.
To some degree, I wouldn't be
Would
surprised.
you send him to a
I
vocational
would.
high school?
Yeah, I would encourage it. I think it would be great if he wants. I think ultimately it might come down to, social and friends and
Yeah,
that I'm sure in a 14-year-old's brain it's going to be part of the decision making, but I think the school that we're in district 2 is an awesome school. It would be great if he could go to that vocational school.
I remember. um, I grew up in a small town, Winthrop, Mass, and of course, like you said, your friends pay a whole thing. I was played hockey all the time, and big into that, and good friend group, and everybody's going to Winthrop High School, and my mother said to me, God rest her soul again, why don't you try Malden Catholic? I go, what?
Mhm.
I go, it's all boys. I don't know anyone. I am absolutely not going. And I loved it. It was and fast forward, it was the best decision of my life. It changed my life, that school and the life lessons I learned. But she was so crafty. She said, all right, I'll tell you what, try it for the first year, or maybe she even said first semester. I don't know. Just give it a try. We'll pay, half the tuition or whatever it was. And after that, if you don't like it, you go with your friends to Winter Pie. Well, I loved it from day one and it changed your life. So schools definitely, definitely, like you said, it's a lifelong change. It's big. And I see some parents the kids are making all the decisions. And I granted, you got to give them and you got to look at their side. And I get it. I do get it. But look at what it did for you,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I think that's
And I
true
know
of
you,
mentorship, right? Like,
and
I think I just had this conversation on the ride here. I had a call with a business coach I'm friends with.
of
We were
course,
just
you're working
talking
while
about,
you're driving. And
of course. And we were just chatting, and I was talking about how, like, I hire coaches for me. Like, I have a
'cause you want
business
to get
coach
better.
at any given moment, and I have this phrase like, I have my board of directors, right? Like, although I might not be Google or Amazon or whatever, I have a board of directors. I have people that sit in every seat that I have called them and been like, hey, you're going to be on my board of directors. I'm going to call you when I need issues with this or that. And they're people that over the last decade I've called for business decisions, life decisions. They're the people that I know are rooting for me, that have
Yes.
great,
Have your best interest. Yeah.
yeah, so I think, like, for those that are listening, like, if there's one call to action in this episode, it's like, get yourself a board of directors, whatever those seats need to be, and you're going to be the advocate of what you need on the table, but have a group of people that you feel are doing things 10x to what you're doing, and they're people that you're going to call on when you can't figure it out. It's like, hey, and I think it's important that you surround yourself with mentors so that you're continuously coached, because I think there's this
Yeah.
farce that, okay, you go to college and then that's it. That's the end of education. But I think you can pursue continued development through people that have done it all before you.
Absolutely. And that's, I'm like just like that. I'm like a sponge. I just look for people and things and whatever. Cause if someone's successful in an area that I'm passionate about, like you're going to follow people that failed or you're going to follow people.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah.
but you just raised a huge thing is ego. A lot of people, and uh, you know it and I know it, they have ego and
We
you
all do. I think you have to have ego if you're going to be a business owner. You got to
oh, I do.
you got to
But
check
you
it.
but you need to check, right? So you're big on mentorship. You're big on, you mentioned your board of directors. You got people you can call. You're not trying to be the end all be all, right? We're human too,
Yeah.
right? We are human beings at the end
Yeah.
of the day,
Yeah.
right?
We're going to make mistakes and we need to figure it all out.
Yeah, but it's so refreshing to hear, and I tell people I'm a because I make the analogies about martial arts to everything. I said, I'm a white belt. I am learning like everything. I am learning. I don't know any more than you. I've just been here before you.
Mhm.
That's it. That's it. So as we wrap this up, I knew we have to have you back on because we didn't even touch a scintilla of the great things that you're doing. If, in closing, if you could just, what would be the advice that you would give to a parent who is weighing the option of, um, you call it blue collar, I don't, whatever. I think that's going to go away, right? Blue collar.
I think so. There's got to be a new name. I don't know.
It's
It's
got
a
to
new
be a
era
minute
of something.
because it's very innovative and creative. But what advice would you give them if they were contemplating a educational experience for their child?
One is understanding that it's not as dirty, right, as it once was.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the vocational trades have really elevated. It's not just AI and tech that have advanced. A lot of these vocational trades, like collision repair, is so much more sophisticated. It's not this dungy, basement that you're
It's a
working in.
stigma, right?
Yeah,
It was stigmatized
there
before.
there is this sort of stigma. I think a lot of the trades are really doing some pretty savvy, sophisticated things that take a lot of brain power to do, that you would be very proud to have your child do. Um, and thinking about where we're headed, right? If AI is going to continue to advance, I look at the big picture of, like, what are the things that a AI bot could not do? And it's like, well, they're not going to fix your toilet that's backing up, and they're not going to dye your hair, and they're not going to build your house. And it's like, so with all this technology advancement,
Yeah.
I think it's a really viable solution for your kids to have a wonderful career path. There's all sorts of positions that are, seemingly white collar, where you're wearing khakis and a polo and, your
Exactly.
company car and a phone and an expense account. I mean, there's some really lavish careers in all sorts of these vocations. And there's skill sets that are really needed, right? Like, if you have some of these skill sets, you could travel across the country, plop yourself in a new city and get a job within a week.
I didn't
Versus,
think of that.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of need for people in nursing. There's a lot of need for people to fix cars. There's a lot of need for contractors. I mean, the number one thing I hear from all of the vocational industry professionals is that they need help. So if they need help and your kids are that entry level, the beauty is they're not going to be waiting for the next regime, the next round of people to, to retire in order to get promoted. They're going to have all sorts of advancement
Yeah,
early
and
in
you
their
just
career.
raised a huge point is like kids today, and I was telling you a story about my daughter. They want to travel, they
Mhm.
want to experience different things, and they should because that's such a learning experience. But now they don't have to be confined to like,
You don't. Even I think what got really popular during COVID was like the van life, like get in the van and tour all over the place. Well, guess what? Like if you're an auto collision tech, you could tour all over the place and still have a job. There's a need all over the place in
so
all these different
yeah, so
industries.
it sound so is it, I mean, you just sold me on it, but is the message different to the student or is it those similar? I mean, it sounds like it'd be similar. Is
It's
there
probably
anything that
similar. I think it's just that there is a weird stigma that's stuck around the vocational schools that I think is improving. I do think people are looking at it a little bit differently, but
think it's starting. It's definitely starting. Like I was
yeah,
telling you, everybody I talk to, it's like, oh, there's a waiting list. I can't get in there. Where before I could name maybe two. Um,
there wasn't a waiting list when I went. I can assure you.
it was two,
Yeah.
and it was for the kids that got in trouble.
Yeah.
Right now, it's for the kids that have innovation and
Yeah.
creativity. Right. So that
They're teaching it. It's real practical skill sets that I think will teach your kids to become a business owner. Right, it's a really great foundation for that, and teach them viable skills that even if a lot of the vocational skills, vocational students actually go on to college. Like quite a few of them will go to a conventional college afterwards, but they always have that default. So if for whatever reason, whatever they pursue professionally, I think the stats on like what people do professionally versus what they went to college for, very
oh
few
hello,
people.
that doesn't,
Yeah,
yeah,
very
it
few
doesn't
people
even
actually
equate.
do it. But what's cool is like if they have that trade skill, that's something they have for the rest of their life that they could always fall back on. And they're still getting all, they're still doing their MCAS and they're still doing all their
Yeah, they're doing
conventional.
all
Yeah.
it's so interesting to hear that it's not an abandonment of convention because I am still a proponent of education
Mhm.
in any form because I think that going off to college in another state and living on your own and meeting people from different places of the world is an education, right?
Mhm.
It's less to me about, okay, you took this class and learned that. Well, what's
Yeah.
that
It's
going to do?
doing laundry and
Yeah, what's that going to do?
yeah.
Exactly, and all those life skills that we talked about today.
Mhm.
Awesome story. We have so much more to talk about. I hope you'll consider coming back again, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank
This was
you.
awesome.